Friday, August 6th, and it's time to wake up once again. Larry Krueger, Damon Bruce, we are back. It's been a funny, choppy week because of all the training camp that Larry's been covering, and we finally, Larry, are a day away from actual football on a football field. 49ers and Titans is Saturday, and it's right that we get back and have one more conversation before we get into this. What's going on, man?
Yeah, good to see everybody. Good morning to everybody. Good morning to you, Damon. Good morning to Raphael 5629ers. He says, good morning, Larry, Damon, and everyone.
That's our guy. He beats everybody into the room every week.
And then he says, every show. Like and subscribe, everyone. And please do. If you hit like, just if you hit like, the YouTube algorithm, has more people finding, that just helps more people find our stream. And then if you hit subscribe and hit the notification bell, either here or on Damon's channel, on either channel, or hopefully we subscribe to both. Every time we go live, you'll just get a little ding, little notification on your phone saying, hey, Damon's going live, Larry's going live. You don't want to miss any of it. And so there you go. Cost you nothing. But like and subscribe, support the channel, support the show. You can also, at least on my channel, buy merch at the YouTube store, and the merch sales this month. This has been a record-setting month for merch. For why? I'm not exactly sure why.
People want to look like you. They want to be like you, Larry, and that's all there is to it.
I think it's really, and we also, Kev has designed some Krug Show shirts for women. He's got the girls pink Krug Show shirt on there as well, so you can do that. You can get the You're Fucking Lazy t-shirt. There's a bunch of different options there, and we'll have more.
You want to wear that one around the kids. You want the You're Fucking Lazy shirt around the kids. But that's good. That's good, man. I'm glad that it's happening. This is the moment we've been waiting for. You are in year 3 now covering the NFL on YouTube. I'm going into year 2, Larry. There's so many similarities between where you were and where I am, and it's all happening. It's all ticking up, and it's all very, very exciting. So thanks to everybody who has wanted this show back. Again, it's been a convoluted couple of weeks here. There's been a lot of questions. Are you and Larry still working together, with Larry going back to radio? Yes, Wake Up is still happening. We promise you that. And we'll know more next week as to what the 49ers schedule will be next week, whether or not training camp practices will still be open to the media, which could get in the way of Larry and I doing it. But you will be seeing more of us. Wake Up will be a routine part of your life. We promise you, as soon as football is officially back. And Larry, again, it starts officially coming back on Saturday. The pressure to perform on back of the roster guys is immense. For some of these guys, it's their Super Bowl. And if they're not going to end up on the Niners, they could put something on tape that's going to get them an NFL job in another city. So how Kyle goes about using his starters in this game, maybe you've got some clarity from training camp to share with us. I know other established quarterbacks and head coaches are playing starters, and it feels like coaches are approaching preseason from one of two ways. They're going to play their starters early and then taper that off the closer we get, or have everyone sat and then ramp them up the closer we get. Do we know which way Kyle and the 49ers are going to handle their preseason?
Well, Kyle always, as you know, Damon, has been in the camp of you got to practice. You got to play football to get ready to play football. So, it's interesting. We have inside the NFC West, we have two diametric opposite opinions about how to approach preseason. Sean McVay, for years, has basically said, I'm not playing any of my money guys. Aaron Donald, no. Stafford, no. Kupp, no. Every single one of their big-time guys sits, not half of a first preseason game, all 100% of 100% of the preseason games.
Right. Players that do matter don't play in games that don't.
Sean McVay is his methodology, or his mindset is clear. I am getting to week 1 with a fully intact roster, and I will trade week 1 or week 2 or week 3 rust for making sure I've got a full complement of stars. Where Kyle Shanahan is like, you know what? You got to block and tackle because that's what football's about, and you got to practice it, and there's a certain amount of physicality that you have to endure, and he puts his starters out there and puts his guys out there and rolls the dice. And the Niners have lost a season where they had 20 guys on the IR. So, and yet they've been in the near winner circle at the NFC Championship game level for the last 4 or 5 years. So they're doing something right as well. I get the sense that it's going to be, just from this last practice, Damon, that it's going to be an all hands on deck situation, meaning between the rest days and the guys who are dinged up and the guys who are, just not, like yesterday, there were 20 guys that did not, of the 90 in camp, 20 to 25 guys sat it out, either with a veteran rest day or some malady, some ding, some this, some that, trying to freshen them up for the preseason game on Saturday. So I would expect that you're going to see very, very little of Brock Purdy and the starters, if at all. I think if the first team offense is out there, it will be for a series, maybe 2, and that will be it. And I think you're going to get almost all of your essential football players, which is going to be, Malik Collins, Yatir Gross-Matos. I mean, guys like on that level are probably going to either not play at all or play very, very little and give way to the guys, as you said, who are basically playing on Super Bowl Sunday for their livelihood.
It feels like the 49ers have added some players to the roster specifically to have extra bodies to play in this game and to not be forced to put some of the, I don't want to call some of these guys camp arms, but these are camp linemen. These are camp defensive tackles. These are camp running backs and wide receivers. And there's going to be a lot of guys who were just added to the roster this week who won't be anywhere around the roster, I think, come week 1 time. But it is good that we're actually getting football back out there. It's going to give us a lot more to talk about than holdouts and Brandon Aiyuk and where is Trent Williams. And we're going to have some real tape to start evaluating, the guys who play in the line of scrimmage. I am really interested. I don't think my eyes are going to be anywhere more than on Dominic Pooney when he's out there, and Malik Mustafa. I am really, really interested in watching these guys and to see if a guy like Mustafa doesn't get instantly put into that you're too important to be playing in a preseason game category, right? I mean, what if I told you Mustafa only got 15 snaps? You'd believe me, wouldn't you?
Well, I mean, they only have 3 safeties, as far as what I would consider starting caliber safeties, right? You got Jair Brown, you got Talanoa Hufanga. I guess I would throw George Odom in there because the way he's playing in this camp, He looks really, really good. They just signed Tracy Walker the third.
He might be the captain of the all unappreciated 49ers team.
Odom. Right. And then there's Taylor Hawkins and Jalen Mahoney. And actually, Mahoney's looked pretty good in camp, and Hawkins has too. So they're a little deeper at safety today than they appeared to be. The talk is, Damon, and this is kind of exciting, that possibly by the end of next week, that Talanoa Hufanga could join the 49ers on the practice field when they are joined by the Saints in Irvine next Thursday and Friday. And I'll be down there for that in Irvine. And Hufanga is, they're saying, going to be back on the field. The goal was to get him back for week 1, but they're saying he may get back by the joint practices. So
that's great.
Hufanga, Jair, George Odom, Tracy Walker, Malik Mustafa, Taylor Hawkins, Jalen Mahoney, and Mahoney's look really good. And so, Mustafa's look great. So kind of quietly, the 49ers safety group has gotten a lot deeper in the last few days because Odom's playing great. Walker, I think, is a legit cover guy coming over from Detroit. And Jalen Mahoney and Taylor Hawkins on the back end are showing that they're going to compete. So pretty deep group of safeties for sure.
Larry, I had Eric Crocker on the channel yesterday, and Crocky's, he's fantastic. And he obviously, played professional cornerback and knows, I wanted to start with the secondary, and we did, and we talked about it. And I think at the end of the conversation, I talked myself into the fact that the 49ers secondary might be the strength of this defense when it's all said and done. You can't exist in the NFL without linebackers who can drop into coverage. And that's what makes Fred Warner maybe the best linebacker in all of football, because like a queen on a chessboard, he can move in any direction. the much maligned defensive line. We'll have to see how that produces. But look, I love Mooney Ward. Diamador Lenore, by all precincts, yourself included, Larry, sounds like he is very ready to step into Pro Bowl level caliber type of season. Isaac Yiadom has been someone that everyone who is covering training camp is talking about. The rookie Renardo Green has been seeing a significant uptick in important camp snaps and is running with ones and is being used at nickel. I think that the secondary is going to be a really, really strong unit on this team, and it needs to be, because there's more of the game on a football field is played in the secondary than it probably is even on the line of scrimmage these days.
I mentioned it to Daniel Bullocks, the DB coach, Monday when we had a chance to sit down with him in the auditorium there. I said, hey, man, dude, you got a room back there. I mean, seriously, this team has talked about needing to upgrade the secondary for 3 off seasons in a row. And
it hasn't been the buzz of this year's camp. It feels like mission accomplished.
Right. But this team's been talking for the last 3 or 4 years about got to improve the secondary. And really, for the last 3 years, they've added a piece here, a piece there. And you know the way it works. It's like, just because you draft a guy in a particular year doesn't mean he's coming of age that year. So some of these guys, like Ambry Thomas, have had bumps in the road. Samuel Womack, bumps in the road. Darrell Luter, bumps in the road. And here we are. It's now August of 2024. And you look at that secondary, and you could not be more right about how this is going to be the lead unit. Because, look at this group. Mooney Ward's 28. He's the veteran in the group. Demo looks like he is headed towards a year where he's one of the great defensive backs in the game. He's having a phenomenal camp. You mentioned Yiadom. He's coming off of a terrific year with the Saints. He's only 28, so he's not old. Then Rock Ya-Sin, was signed, and I talked to Mayoko about it in the springtime, and he's like, yeah, I don't know about his knee and if he's healthy. He's healthy. He looks good. Rock Ya-Sin is running around. He's looking good. Ambry, yesterday in practice, I thought the 3 guys that dominated the practice were Ambry Thomas, Samuel Womack, and Renardo Green. Those 3 guys, Damon, probably had 12 PBUs in practice yesterday.
Well, if I were Ambry Thomas, I would have all the PBUs that you can find, because the way I look at it right now, just looking at the depth chart, he's on the outside looking in, Larry. I don't know about that. Maybe being cut. There's how many guys can you keep? You're going to keep six.
I don't know. I don't know how they have them ranked and rated. I'm looking at Our Lads. Our Lads has Mooney and Lenore as Yiadom as the ones, right? And then they've got Ambry and Rock Ya-Sin and Renardo as the 2s. And then they've got Womack, Luter, and Chase Lucas as the 3s. So, it's very, very debatable as to, how these prospects should be ranked or rated or whatnot. But all I'm just saying is, like, I don't even go for that as much as I just look at it like you're going to play an NFL season. In the old days, like the 80s, you needed 5 good corners. But your 4th and 5th corner didn't really play very much. They just played like special teams or true like backups if guys got hurt. Now your 4th and 5th corner play a lot, and it matters a ton. And the Niners, you want to have 5 in camp, 5 good ones, and preferably 6. The Niners have 9.
Well, but here's
Mooney,
the thing. So
Mooney, Ambry, Womack, Yiadom, Ya-Sin, Luter, Lenore, Renardo, and Lucas. There's no donkey in that. There's 9 guys there who all are NFL caliber cornerbacks who can play. So they're really looking good there.
If Luter and Womack come even close to who you hope they are, Larry, that's where it gets tough for Ambry Thomas, because Ambry Thomas is going into year 4. What are those guys are going to be in year 2, year 3? And it just turns into a numbers game. Like, Ambry, we like you. We like the direction you're going in, but we have more controllable years over a roster that we really got to get our arms around financially. And, he might be the guy out just based on years agreed to contractually by some of the younger guys. And then the older guys that you added, obviously you added them to play this year. You didn't sign Isaac Yiadom to let him go. You didn't
Well,
sign.
I mean, Yadam
sign
hasn't
him.
practiced the last 2 days because of injury. And, we've yet to play any football games. So when you do play football games, guys get hurt, guys get hurt seriously, and the ranks thin out. So I'm not going to, last year, the Niners were like, oh, we got too many corners. We don't know what to do with Deshaun Jameson. Oh, let's just cut him. Okay, well, you cut him. You kept all these backup offensive linemen that stunk, none of which are with the team. Jason Poe and Pryor and all these donkeys. They all were on the team last year. You cut Deshaun Jameson. He quickly wound up in Carolina. He wound up playing significant snaps for them last year. And by week 3 or 4, the 49ers were looking on the street. And, they brought in all kinds of street free agent corners by the end of the year. So, and badly needed Deshaun Jameson and didn't have him because they cut him loose. So the old rule of thumb, Damon, is you never cut an NFL caliber corner. But that rule is going to be put to the test because the Niners have about 8 or 9 NFL caliber corners. I will say this. Ambry has been hugely inconsistent, and he has drawn the wrath of lots of people because of that inconsistency. But at times in this camp, he's been the best player on the field. I mean, at times he looks amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm not convinced. Yeah, I'm not convinced he doesn't make it. But like if you ask me, how do I think it's going to get thinned out? I say Chase Lucas probably gets cut. Okay, so that's one. Womack and Luter, I just think are too good to cut. You can't cut those guys. You can't cut Renardo Green, and you're not going to. He's a second-round pick. I don't think you can cut Ambry. So then it comes down to, is Yadam healthy? If not, maybe he starts on the PUP list or the IR. I think Rock Yassin will be right there on the bubble. And Womack might as well. I mean, I really hope they don't cut Womack because to me, he's a terrific young player who's absolutely going to go somewhere else and play and maybe start. But, he had a terrific last couple days. So if Womack can build on that and have a good preseason, he's going to make it really, really tough on Nick Sorensen to pare this secondary down.
We will get to Brandon Aiyuk in a situation that never changes, apparently. We will talk about Trent Williams, but let's talk a little bit more about how this game in Tennessee might actually look to us outside of Brock Purdy, either starting and playing sparingly or maybe even not at all. What do you think is going to happen in the quarterback rotation? Is Mordecai able to play in this game, or is he still nursing some dings?
I don't know about the injury factor for any of these guys. I don't believe any of them are dinged up enough to not go. I don't see why you would play.
I'm sorry. Do you think it'll be Dobbs, Allen, Mordecai? If it's up to those 3 guys to play this game, do you think that they roll out in that way?
No, I think it will go Allen, Dobbs, Mordecai based on what I've seen in practice. But, you never know. Maybe Dobbs gets the upper hand because he's the new guy who, was signed on. But to me, it looks like Allen, to me, seems like he's taken more second team reps in this camp than Dobbs. So if I had to guess, I would say maybe Allen's, maybe Purdy sits this one out just because there's truly nothing to be gained. And Brock is the guy, and he's gotten all the first team reps in camp. He's not shared them, and he hasn't missed any days for the most part. So I would say maybe Brock doesn't play at all in this one. And then Allen starts, I would say plays the first half. Dobbs starts and plays the third quarter, and Mordecai plays the fourth.
I think there are 2 preseason games this evening, a handful, like 8-9 games on Saturday, a few more games to be thrown into the mix. So it's a big first football weekend around the NFL. And again, some teams are approaching it with a little bit more vim and vigor for their established quarterbacks than maybe the 49ers are. I saw Ari Miriov report that Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, CJ Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, Jordan Love are all scheduled to play in week 1. So it will be interesting to see
week 1 of the preseason.
Week 1 of the preseason. Yes. Obviously they're scheduled to play week 1.
They're going to play week 1.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I mean, I really, this is one of my favorite times of the year. I love this time of the year because what happens on the NFL Network is even if you don't have the NFL package, and I do, but and I get the NFL Plus, so I can watch any game every week, but in any form too, which is really cool. But what I love about the preseason is on the NFL Network, they're just always playing games. So it's like, doesn't matter what time you sit down in front of the TV, there's always an NFL preseason game on a loop. So it's really cool. And I watched a little bit last night of Giants Lions, and the Giants beat the Lions 14-3. There's already been two really, really interesting things happening in preseason, Damon, if I could share them with you.
Please.
One was Giants and Lions did what the Saints and Niners are going to do next week in Irvine. Earlier this week, they practiced together for a couple days in advance of their preseason game. I don't know if you saw this, but Goff threw a pass to Amon-Ra, who just signed a deal. And a lot of people say that Amon-Ra is not the most popular guy in the Lions locker room right now because of the contract that he signed and how much he's making. And I don't know the exact ins and outs, but a fight started between the Giants players and Amon-Ra. Damon, not a single Lion player came into this fight for like 40 seconds.
Not one.
And this guy was getting pummeled by like 7 New York Giants and not one Detroit Lion. Mr. I don't care if you got 3 toes and one ass cheek, I'll kick your ass.
Doesn't matter if you have 1 ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
It doesn't matter if you have 2 ass cheeks and you're our best wide receiver. I won't defend your ass.
So I didn't know where you were going with your preseason 2 games observations. I have seen that video, and
what do you think?
It's a level of teammate disturbing, right? Where are your teammates? You are getting mollywopped by the entirety of another team secondary. They are literally grabbing you by your face masks and shoulder pads, and this is far beyond after whistle football play, and it is go time. It is drop the gloves on the ice. Both teams are fighting each other, entire rosters time, and the Lions let Amon-Ra St. Brown catch a giant 2-piece before
more than that. It was like a 12-piece.
Yeah.
He got absolutely worked, and it was 40 seconds before anybody came to his. I mean, that, and from what I've heard, that could be a very bad sign for things to come for the Detroit Lions. So
here's all you need to know is that guys spend all of training camp pounding on each other. And when they finally get another team in there, they cannot wait to pound on that team. Before the whistle, during the whistle, after the whistle, we finally have somebody to beat up other than ourselves. So when somebody actually starts beating up one of your teammates and you do nothing about it,
terrible.
There's something there.
Terrible look.
That's a bad look for sure for the Lions and Amon-Ra St. Brown, who, by the way, I never knew had an unliked reputation in that locker room. I thought it was the polar opposite. I thought he was Johnny Lunch Pail. Everybody loves the guy. So
I didn't know of the discontent either. I just kind of read the backstory after seeing nobody support him in this brawl, but people were saying that it's kind of a thing. In this Detroit-New York game, by the way, a couple of other things stood out. Sione Vaki, who I had on the Krueger show, who's a Bay Area guy from Antioch, who's he's everything, right? He's a safety, he's a special teamer, he's a running back. He played running back last night for the Lions. 4 carries, 29 yards, 7.3 a carry for Sione Vaki. That was great to see. I love Sione. He's a terrific kid, and he comes from a huge family.
Here's an unfair question.
Yeah.
Was it early in the game against other NFL players, or was it against Swiss cheese fourth quarter ain't going to be on the team NFL players?
Yeah, I never concern myself with that. You know why? Because you're running against a defense that has future, electricians and plumbers, but you're also getting blocks up front from guys who are future, non-starters. So it all kind of evens out. But I hear what you're saying.
Vaki for everyone. Vaki for
Sione
everyone.
Vaki. Check out Sione, and Sione's a great guy. But then the New York Giants also picked up this guy. One of the most underrated signings of the springtime was the New York Giants adding a running back by the name of Dante Miller. And you say, well, why is that significant? He's a 5'9", 200-pound running back from South Carolina. He's super fast. I mean, he runs like in the 4.2s. And for whatever reason, he became eligible after the draft for some reason. I forget exactly why. And the Giants signed him, and it was a great signing. Anyway, he is a burner, and he is exciting. He had 12 carries for 63 yards, 19-yard run mixed in there. He went for 5.3 a carry. Him and Eric Gray, I thought, looked really, really good for the Giants. So
since we're talking fast running back, I don't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Since we're talking fast running backs, how does Matt Breida have a second life here with the 49ers? How do the 49ers not have enough of a deep room that they're having trouble getting snaps to everyone for already to go out and sign Matt Breida? That doesn't make an awful lot of sense.
Well, here's why, Damon. Christian McCaffrey's got an injury, and he's not going to play at all in the preseason, and probably is not going to be ready for week 1. Elijah Mitchell, he's got a calf strain. So CMC, I mean, it's funny. Shanahan just kind of squeezed that in on us. All these other things going on. And by the way, CMC's got a calf strain and won't play anymore this preseason. What? Wait, what? Wait,
you think that could extend into the regular season? You think?
Yeah, well, they said several weeks that he will be out several weeks with the calf strain. And as you know, we're 3 weeks or 4 weeks away from the opener. So it's close.
My definition of several. 3.
Yeah, I mean, if you said to me I have several girlfriends, I'd expect to see 4 or more.
Baller.
If you said I have a few girlfriends, I'd expect to see 3.
3 or fewer. Okay.
3 or fewer. So several. I'm expecting 4 or more.
I was surprised to see Breida back on the roster, but again, if you're telling me it's camp legs, camp running back, I guess it makes more sense. Yeah,
well, he's not the only one though. I mean, so there's CMC is hurt with the calf strain. He's out.
Garendo's out.
Garendo's out with a very serious hamstring that probably looks like he'll be out a month. I would say he might not even play anymore before the cut down. So I don't know what his situation is going to be. That's going to be worth watching. Then Elijah Mitchell is always hurt. I mean, Damon, the guy plays one day and then he's on the sideline working out. He's constantly hurt. So really, and then Patrick Taylor missed practice yesterday with some ding. So now the Niners are really down to Jordan Mason, Cody Schrader, who looks great, by the way. And both those guys. Jordan Mason and Cody Schrader both look phenomenal. But because they're down to just 2 backs, really, that they can lean on, they brought in Breida and also signed Keyshawn Vaughn. Remember the former Vandy running back was in Tampa Bay for a few years. I think he was in New England last year. And both Breida and Keyshawn Vaughn have looked good running the football. So Breida's, 5'10", 195. He's only 29. He's still a relatively young man. As you know, he's got great explosive speed. I mean, he's like shot out of a cannon. Now, he's not quite the speedster that he was when he was here the first time. He's lost a little bit of that, but not a lot. And then Keyshawn Vaughn is really interesting. He's a 27-year-old running back. He's a little bit more of a power back. He's 5'10", about 215 pounds, but he also has great contact balance and he look good. So they're fortified. They're well fortified at running back at this point, even despite the injuries.
All right, I got you off your subject. You said you had 2 preseason.
Oh yeah, well the other thing,
Lions. What's the other one?
The other one is I watched Pats Panthers, right? And the Patriots.
Why? Well, seriously, Larry, you got to get outside of the fucking house, dude.
I wanted to see Drake May. I wanted to see Joe Milton. Milton. Oh my God.
Oh my God. Good.
Damon,
oh my God. Bad.
Oh my God. Good.
Okay.
Joe Milton the third is going to be something. The Patriots drafted Drake May at the top of this draft. They also drafted Joe Milton late. Joe Milton is, and I did videos on him because he's just such a freak. He's just big and strong and athletic and fast and just amazing. 6'5", 250 with a Mahomes type arm. And this guy in the first preseason game, now Bailey Zappi started and he didn't look that great, but Drake May played a little bit. He was 2 of 3 for 19 yards. But Joe Milton was 4 of 6 for 54 yards. He had a touchdown. He had a 134.7 rating. He was their best quarterback of the night. He also ran 5 times for 22 yards. But this guy threw a laser to, I forget who it was, Keyshawn Butte or one of these guys, Jalen Polk. I forget who it was, Javon Baker. It was down the field about 25 yards. And this thing was just the most ridiculous laser I think I've seen in a while. So Milton, remember that
Milton
one
was a real big deal at Tennessee until he tore his ACL, and that threw his prospect train right off of its tracks.
Well, he started Michigan, right? He started Michigan, and then he transferred. He was a 5-star recruit, and he in the Tennessee spring game last spring, he threw the ball in the air 92 yards in the air,
which is nice.
Could you imagine you're dropping back to pass on the 5-yard line and you hit a guy at the goal line?
It's pretty good.
I mean, that would just be amazing.
Not a play most coaches are looking to dial up, but if you got it in the book, you might as well use it once or twice.
You might as well use it. But anyway, Joe Milton is something, and he is going to be something to people are going to be discussing it, especially because ESPN is right there, and the Patriots are not just another team.
Anyone who went out and bought a Drake May jersey may have bought the wrong jersey, is what you're saying.
I'm just saying, get ready for the Drake May. If Drake May struggles and Joe Milton gets out there early and has early success, get ready for the contrived ESPN, around the horn PTI, May or Milton, or May. Do the Pats go? What does Mayo do? Mayo goes with Milton or May. Whatever. But I mean, it
slathers on the Milton.
Exactly.
I think of bad mayonnaise related headlines.
Yeah, exactly. But there you go. Joe Milton threw one pass and was like, people were just like, oh my God, look at that. It was like a 28-yard ball, Damon, that didn't get more than like 4 or 5 feet off the ground. It was just an amazing laser.
Well, I remember sometimes a quarterback does just uncork something in front of you, or you see it, and you're like, "What the fuck is that?" And I don't think there's any quarterback who ever uncorked okay, I'm a believer in one pass now on me, as much as Colin Kaepernick did the first time he started
against the Bears,
the 49ers against the Bears at Candlestick. He uncorked a pass on like 3rd and 10 that just was. Just no, I haven't said Alex Smith can't do that. We know that for sure. We might not be seeing much more of Alex Smith. I think that's when Jim Harbaugh started thinking, yeah, I got a quarterback change coming up. I mean, we're not going to have a quarterback controversy. I got a quarterback change. Oh, man, for just a minute, if we could just go back to remember fondly our first official kiss on the forehead by Colin Kaepernick. That was fun. It obviously turned into something no one could have foreseen. But for a minute there, just the prospect of what he might be was very exciting. That was the high water mark of 49ers football for so long. Like, hey, this Colin Kaepernick guy and Jim Harbaugh, maybe there's something there after all. And those are exciting times.
It's funny too. There's a lot of debate over what Justin Herbert is going to become right under Jim Harbaugh. And I was looking, I'm getting ready for my fantasy draft like everybody else. And I was going through an article this morning on Matthew Berry had like 100 facts. And he's really good. I love Matthew Berry. I mean, he does a really good job with the fantasy. And one of the facts was during Jim Harbaugh's tenure as head coach in San Francisco, the 49ers ranked 2nd in the NFL in rush rate. In other words, we can talk about Harbaugh and quarterbacks all we want, but at the end of the day, they run the ball. They the Niners ran the ball, Stanford ran the ball, University of San Diego Toreros ran the ball, Michigan ran the ball. Yeah. And so,
by the way,
get ready for the Chargers to run the ball, run the heck out of the football. So, and that was also
Jim in San Diego, Los Angeles, because did you see that he just got a 4-year show cause? Like bringing Jim Harbaugh back to college isn't like it didn't work out again in the NFL. Let's bring him back. That situation gets a little sticky. Bringing Jim back.
Explain for those of us, Damon, who are not familiar with the penalty. Can you explain what the penalty?
So this has absolutely nothing to do with a still ongoing Connor Stallions was that guy taping practice situation that is still under investigation. This is going back to Jim Harbaugh and impermissible contact through the COVID years, through all the things that Harbaugh is a million times on record implicitly denying and saying that he is the victim of a witch hunt and jealousy and all this stuff. And it appears, no, he did it all. And he was guilty of it all.
He cheated, all kinds of recruiting violations.
All kinds of recruiting violations. So,
yeah.
Look,
so he cheated. So he was, halted in his tracks. He had never beaten the Buckeyes. He's sitting there about to get run out of Ann Arbor, and he starts this elaborate, we're going to cheat as much as we possibly can, recruits an incredible class, gets far and away, Damon, the greatest transfer portal collection of talent ever assembled.
Right.
And wins the national championship and then surfs it to the NFL. So what does he care? So are you saying that if he gets, and I always thought the NFL and the college game was tied. So you're saying that if by chance he left the Chargers, the LA Chargers, I want to say San Diego, and goes back to the college game, he will have to serve a suspension before he can.
4-year show cause. In other words, you have to be able to prove beyond a doubt that your guy is not going to cheat if you're going to hire him. And if he does, you're going to get hammered. Absolutely unmercifully hammered. Because like you went out of your way to hire a known cheat. And so if you get caught cheating on that watch, you just get destroyed by what is kind of a feckless, toothless, doesn't even really count anymore NCAA. I saw Harbaugh's attorneys basically said, like, our guys in the NFL now, go fuck off. Like that was part of the official statement almost. It's just one of the most true things ever said about sports and success in the sport of football was said by Dan Le Batard years ago. Sirens always follow success in college football. Always. If your team is a national champion, you cheated. Somewhere, somehow, some way, something happened. It's like the same way with the Olympics. I hate to say this because I love the Olympics. I love watching the Olympics. Somebody described it, Larry, as sports tapas. It really is. You get a little delicious bite in an event you normally don't think about, and you're like, oh, I love that. And before you really get into it, they serve you something else. Now let's go to fencing. Now let's go to synchronized diving. Now let's go back to the track.
I gotta be honest. Outside of Team USA, I've only caught just a smattering of it.
Oh, I love it. We have it on. The kids love it. My wife loves it. Where she likes all the background stories. So
is it over? Is it almost over yet, or is it?
Yeah, it wraps up on Sunday, I believe.
Wraps up.
This weekend. Yeah, this weekend the Olympics will be over. But I can't remember where I was going with this, but anyway, so I love the freaking, no, this.
You said it's like the tapas of sports.
If you want to see who the cheaters are, if like you want to do an investigation into any Olympic sport and see who might've been cheating, the first place to start your investigation is right there on top of the medal platform. Like
whoever wins
in a world of really talented, the guys who are winning against the world of really talented might be doing something they shouldn't. Is just throwing that out there. Just throwing that out there. But I do. I love it.
I'm part of that group of people that 4 kids and a mortgage, and I got too much going on to care if you're cheating in your sport that I don't care that much about to begin with.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I can't feign disgust or or shock or horror at the thought of.
I like to call it outrage du jour. What outrage are we gonna soup up and slurp up today? I have no more outrage left for any steroid issues in sports. I have no more outrage left for any discussion of a national anthem. I don't care. Sit, stand, you go to the bathroom, pick your nose. I don't care. Whatever you got to do to get through this.
Show up, don't show up.
I don't fucking care. It's just a song. I'm not going to put the entire country's mythology behind it, for goodness sakes. So I don't care about that anymore. And Larry, the other thing that I don't think I care about anymore, it's a little bit of a lie because I do. But this Brandon Aiyuk situation, and good for us, we've gone 40 minutes into this show without bringing it up. And people in the chat have been very receptive of this, just saying thank you for talking about the rest of this football team, not just one topic, which everybody seems to be stuck on. But the reason why everyone's stuck on it is because the 49ers themselves are stuck on this topic that doesn't go away, that doesn't seem to change. And then out of nowhere, you see, like nobody's covered in glory on this. Not Team Aiyuk, not the 49ers, not a single reporter trying to break the story or get it right. No one's had it right. Now I see Adam Schefter this morning is saying well, Brandon Aiyuk really likes it in the Bay Area and he wants to stay. Like, what the fuck are we doing? What is it now? How are we going to change the narrative now?
Yeah. By the way, the great one there, Niners _worldwide. The power of Gregoose.
Gregoose. We're Gregoosian.
It sounds like an awesome new vodka. Have you tried? Have you tried the Gregoose? Oh my god, a Gregoose with a lime. Oh my god,
ice. Oh, so nice.
Oh, the Gregoose. That's what Damon's drinking in that cup right now.
Or you know what? It sounds like something like, oh, Larry, I was putting my socks on the other day. I bent over a little too fast and I pulled my Gregoose.
Oh, are you kidding me? Or it sounds like, it sounds like an awesome middle linebacker. Did you catch who the Niners drafted out of Illinois in the 6th round? Are you kidding me? Johnny Gregoose? Johnny Gregoose had 27 tackles in the Rose Bowl. I love Johnny Gregoose. We got the Gregoose.
I wrote down one name. I put it in an envelope. Gregoose.
No, Damon. I'll never forget the first time I saw JK. I call him JK. Johnny Gregoose is a special football player. Damon, I'm a guy. You're a guy. Krug, he's a guy. Johnny Gregoose is the guy. He's the guy. He's the ultimate football guy.
All right, there you go. Johnny Gregoose. Okay, what are we talking about? We're talking about Aiyuk. Mayoko, I thought, had it good the other day.
Sean Turner says I had to stop at a gas station and drop a Gregoose. That's good. All right.
You must taste my mother's Gregoose.
Have you had the corners?
So to crunchy. Die for. She makes a baklava and a Gregoose that is just to die for.
What you're saying here, it's Kugroose. You're saying Gugaroos. It's the G sign. Is there a silent G in the front of this? I don't. Either way,
it's the Gregoose. Anyway,
what's going to happen with Brandon
Mayoko? Mayoko said something the other day I thought was really interesting. He said, God, it's so pathetic because you just kind of broke it all down there. He said that Brandon Aiyuk may have requested a trade without really thinking it through. And all I would say is, you know what? I agree with that. I think he's right. I think he's assessing that correctly. I think Brandon Aiyuk just wanted his money, and the trade really was just a way to get his money. But then at the end of the day, does he want a lot of money? Yeah, but he doesn't want to be on a losing team. I want a lot of money, but I don't want to play for the Patriots. Are you kidding me? He thought about it for 5 seconds and realized, hey, if I go play for the Patriots, I'm banished. And you saw the Colin Cowherd thing where he's like, Tyreek Hill's watching the playoffs. He's at home watching it like everybody else. So there is something to be said. I just think that Aiyuk, it's like, we don't know, Damon, what Aiyuk actually wants. Does he want to absolutely win and make a lot of money? Niners. Does he want to maybe win and make more? Browns. Does he want to maybe win and make more? Steelers. Or does he want to not win and make most? Patriots?
Yeah.
We don't know, but it's really as simple as that. And I get the sense that he wants to make the most, but he's essentially, I'm starting to get pissed off about it, to be completely honest. I really like Brandon. I think he's a good guy. I think he's a tough guy. I think he's a really good football player. I respect him tremendously as a football player. I do not respect this holdout. This has turned into, I'm going to show you that I'm a free agent when I'm not a free agent. You're not a free agent. When you're a free agent, you can say, I want to play for this team at this price, this way. When you're not a free agent, you can say, I'll take the fifth-year option from the 49ers. I'll take the Niners option, or I'll be traded to the team that the Niners get compensation for me fairly, and I'll go make the best deal I can there. But he doesn't want that. He wants the most money, and he wants to be where he wants to be. And now we don't even really know that. Where does he want to be?
I wish we could know what the dollar amount was New England put in front of him.
I heard it was much lower than people think.
Okay.
Like, somebody suggested to me the other day that the Niners offered 26, that the Browns offered 28, and that the Patriots offered 30. But from other indications and things that I've read, I've gotten the indication that the Patriots offer was closer to like 28.5. So we're really not talking about anybody envisioning him as a $30 million a year guy. We're talking about the Niners saying 26 and change, maybe moving it up a little bit. Patriots on the high end saying 28 and change. So it doesn't sound like we're at 30 no matter where he goes.
Well, here's the thing. Like for 26, 28, that's a number that should have you re-upping with the 49ers. So if that's the number that's out there, you should think twice before walking away from this team for that team at that price.
You're looking at the wrong thing, Damon. You're looking at the wrong thing because you're looking at it logically through numbers. We've talked about this in the last 24 hours. Damon, this has become personal between Kyle Shanahan and Brandon Aiyuk. I really believe it's more personal on Kyle's side than Brandon's side. I'm not sure if anything Brandon does will get the 49ers to put the, cap back on the bottle or whatever, toothpaste back in the toothpaste thing. I don't know that he can come back. I think he's already said and done too much. I think Shanahan's emotionally and mentally moved on. And I think Joe Banner, who worked with Shanahan and made this comment last year, now this was in regards to Trey Lance, but it's the same thing. He said, when Kyle Shanahan is done with you, he's done. And he's done with Aiyuk. So I think Ayuk's going to have to move on. I think it's unfortunate, and it pisses me off.
So let's
pisses me off on a lot of fronts, actually.
Let's deconstruct this. I understand why the frustration would be there. I totally get it. I'm not going to begrudge anybody's feelings. If today Brandon Aiyuk says, Kyle, I'm so sorry, I'm in for 27, 28 million right now, let's go. Kyle Shanahan needs to swallow his ego, get that contract printed off of the damn machine and put it in front of Brandon Aiyuk as fast as possible. I don't want to hear anything about Kyle's out or bad feelings, because if he can re-sign and play the best wide receiver he has, it is up to him as the coach of this team to do it. Fuck your feelings, Kyle. That's how I stand on that. I also, I do.
Well, you saw the Rossini, right?
Like Ryan Gosling in The Notebook, where I'm standing there screaming, "What do you want? What do you want, Brandon?" Because if you want on-field success, you've got it right here. And if you want to be rich, technically at 14.5 million, you are. Like, even the number you don't like still makes you a rich man. So if you want to test free agency, then you got to wait another year for that. Maybe there can be a 1 year, $31 million one. We got 12 months together, and then everyone's going their own ways. We're kind of done with you, but we need you for one more year here, Brandon. Maybe there's something to do there.
But sure Damon, we already talked about you and I already talked about this after the Pivot podcast. Remember, he was asked what ultimately Ryan Clark. I'll give Ryan Clark credit.
He said the money. The money's the most important thing.
He said the money. So there you go. He was given the choice. He said no. Yeah, I'll tell you the other thing that maybe is pissing off Shanahan. He told the Niners in that Pivot podcast no hometown discount, and yet, according to the reports we're reading, it sounds like he's prepared to give the Steelers exactly that, some kind of a hometown discount. So maybe it's just that Aiyuk wants out. He doesn't want to be a Niner anymore. I don't know. You're right, though. It's like, what do you want? What do you want? And what's going to get this solved? And but I get the feeling that it's personal, that Shanahan has been turned off. The fact that Mark Schlereth, who's very close with the Shanahans, basically said that he did not respect Aiyuk's hold in, basically called him soft. Maybe that is echoing how the Shanahans feel about Aiyuk's hold in. I'll say this about the hold in. It's good for the player, but there is a huge dose of passive aggressive that comes with the hold in.
Totally.
Don't you think?
Absolutely.
Like, I'm sitting right here. I won't go over there, but I'm sitting right here. You can't ignore me. I will not be ignored, Kyle. You know, it's like suddenly he's Glenn Close from, he's boiling rabbits.
Yeah, he's in the corner boiling pots and rabbits are in there.
I will not be ignored, Kyle. I will stand at practice next to Frank Gore and I will make myself seen.
I swear to God, I thought he had drowned in the tub, but then Brandon Aiyuk pops up at the very end and pulls Shanahan into the tub. Yeah.
So
look, here's the thing.
Is it possible that he requested a trade that now he's sitting there going, I don't want to go anywhere. I want to be on this team. I mean, I don't know. To me, it seems like it's gotten personal between Shanahan. Shanahan seems really turned off to Aiyuk. I don't know. I mean, and Joe Banner said it, when Shanahan turns you off, you're off and you're not coming back on. And that's what happened with Trey Lance, and he moved off of him. It looks like that's what's happening.
Yeah, but here's the thing. It was easy to move on from Trey Lance because there was no value add. Right. It is not easy to just move on from Brandon Aiyuk.
Especially when you don't have a replacement.
Exactly. Let's not frame this as no problem. You can win without him. I'll even go as far as to say, Larry, I don't think they're in the Super Bowl without Brandon Aiyuk. So
last year or next year, this year?
This year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're probably right. I mean, look, they barely got by Detroit. They barely got by Green Bay. Don't tell me they get by those teams without Aiyuk. And now they drafted Pearsall, but Pearsall's glass. Pearsall's been wearing the blue jersey, non-contact jersey, this entire freaking camp.
Since he was drafted. He was drafted in a non-contact jersey.
I told everybody on draft day, this wasn't the receiver that I wanted, and my concern with Pearsall was durability. He operates in the middle of the field, and he's not the biggest guy. And he doesn't look like he could take a ton of hits. And sure enough, they're not having him in one-on-ones. He's only running routes and team drills. They're trying to protect him. He's been dinged up. He's worn the blue jersey more days than not. Guess what? In the NFL, there is no such thing as the blue jersey. You have to get hit. And Cowing was a 4th-round pick. He had one great day and then hamstring, and he's like missed a bunch of time, and now he's out there, but he's not 100%. So it's like people forget how physical this position is and what a badass you have to be to play wide receiver in the NFL and take these hits. And I don't know that Pearsall and Cowing have the durability to, play 2 games, let alone, the full schedule like a Brandon Aiyuk and be healthy every week. And Aiyuk never misses games for the most part. So now Diana Rossini is reporting that the 49ers do not like the offers that they've gotten from the Steelers, that they want a significantly great player from the Steelers that the Steelers are not willing to offer. And I don't know who that is. Maybe it's Minkah Fitzpatrick. We could speculate.
Right. George Pickens.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know who it is that they want. I'd want Zach Frazier, the center, but that's just me. Maybe they want Alex Highsmith. I would say after losing Drake Jackson, for the year. There's a very good chance that the Niners want a defensive end.
It
could be Alex Highsmith, and Alex Highsmith might be too rich for their blood. But the talk is from Rossini that the Niners don't like what the Steelers have offered and are trying to now engage a third team to try to take some of the draft pick compensation that they get from the Steelers, spin it to that third team for a receiver. So now you're getting rid of your receiver. You've already taken 2 efforts to draft replacement receivers, but that hasn't worked. And instead of just keeping your great receiver, you're now looking for draft picks that you can spin to a third team for some unprecedented August 3-team trade that we've never seen the likes of before. Now, every Niner fans are, of course, immediately dreaming the Devontae Adams dream, but you may want to look at guys like T. Higgins, Cortland Sutton, guys who may. I'll throw out another name that I know will surprise people, but I've been reading.
Cracked off Cortland Sutton good. He's not going anywhere.
What's that?
Cortland Sutton got a deal from the Broncos, so he's not going anywhere.
Well, there's been a lot of speculation this summer he'd get. I mean, you talking about in the last 24 hours he got a new deal?
No, and it'll happen like a couple weeks ago.
Okay, well, maybe he's not going anywhere, but T. Higgins has been rumored to be out there available for a pick. Devontae Adams is clearly unhappy. You saw receiver; he's supposedly out there available for picks. Could the Niners theoretically find a third team that could give them a receiver? Maybe Amari Cooper from Cleveland, if Cleveland's looking to get out from underneath. There's any number of guys. One other name though that's worth mentioning, and I've been reading about this in Minnesota. Jordan Addison's had some problems with DUIs, and then they lost Kyrie Jackson to a car accident involving alcohol, not involving Jordan Addison, but still there's a lot of talk that the Vikings, because of the terrible PR associated with the death of Kyrie Jackson and how they're a little frustrated with Addison, are actually going to make Jordan Addison available this summer at the cutdown via trade. Well, you know what? Jordan Addison is the kind of receiver that would absolutely I'd be interested in. Yeah. So I don't know what's out there as far as trying to engage a third team. I don't know what receivers are out there. Devontae, to me, is not the right guy. He's 32 years old. It just feels like
the
played a lot of football.
Resistance. The path of least resistance in terms of the legwork needed to involve a third team, which I have no examples of NFL trades that I can even think of that ever did that. So the legwork that it would take to explore the unexplored 3-team trade, that feels like it's a massive pain in the ass. Getting in a new wide receiver, whoever he may be, whatever his experience is, and get him all caught up and up to speed the way that Brandon Aiyuk is in this offense, that's an impossibility. So you're making your whole world harder right there.
I asked, by the way, that question. I asked both Purdy and Shanahan this week. I asked Brock. I said, Brock, if a brand new receiver walked in the door, you had no reps with him, how long would it take before you were comfortable? He said a couple weeks. I asked Shanahan this question, and he knew exactly what I was going at, of course. And he said, 2 days, and he joked. But then he said, obviously, I'm just joking. It really depends on the receiver, how good they are.
2 days. That's all I need. 2 days.
Yeah, he said at first he said 2 days, and then he kind of smiled, but then he was joking, and he's just basically said that it's variable. It's like we don't know. If you have Jerry Rice walk through the door, it might be 45 minutes. If you have JJ Stokes walk through the door, it might be 3.5 years. I mean,
if it's AJ Jenkins, it's not happening.
Yeah, right. So there is some ramp up period that's going to exist. Of all the guys out there, to me, T. Higgins is probably the guy that's the most intriguing, just from the standpoint of big receiver, 6'4", can high point the football, can really run. He's a vertical threat. He can get down the field. He's a red zone threat. I think he would complement Debo well. He's a much different type receiver. There's no redundant parts here. I don't know that the Bengals never make trades. The Brown family basically says, you know what, you're not going to be traded, and then they just hold to it. So maybe T. Higgins is never going anywhere. But if you could somehow get the Bengals to do what they never do, and that's trade, he would be He would be a great Niner.
The path of least resistance for the 49ers, I believe, still is to get a deal done with Brandon Aiyuk.
I do think it's gotten personal, and I think it's unlikely. And all the reports that have come out in the last 24 hours, the reports are that while a deal has not come together, almost everybody that's reporting on this says that it's more likely that a deal comes together than Brandon Aiyuk and the Niners kiss and make up, and he plays for the Niners in 2024, which is really, really freaking sad. But it also kind of tells you a little bit about Kyle Shanahan, is that, you know what? When he's done with you, he's done with you.
And I just think that, Shanahan's, the personality trait that seems to rub most people the wrong way is this, omnipotent, my game plan is the star of the show presentation that he gives off. And that reputation, I think, follows him onto the field. And it's a reputation that has him one of the highest paid coaches in the sport. Shanahan is really, really good at what he does, how he does it. And if I think Kyle Shanahan truly believes that outside of a quarterback who I'm finally thrilled to not have a revolving door on, every single one of these pieces is just pieces. And I can have similar outcomes with similar pieces. I don't give a shit who they are. And if you are a coach, you do want to believe that. You do want your coach to think, I don't care who it is, I'll coach him up and we'll go win. Now, call it hubris, call it arrogance, whatever. Kyle is those things too, but he's really, really good at this. So there's a part of me that wants to trust him. There's another part of me that wants to grab him by both lapels and say, get your fucking dick out of your heart and get your emotions off the table and act like a general manager, no grudges here. This is a player you need in a season you need him. Pay him what he fucking wants. We'll worry about who gets the change on the back end. We'll worry about this price tag tomorrow because we got a Super Bowl to go out and win today. So
yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I mean, you're trying to win a championship. How is getting rid of Brandon Aiyuk gonna help that?
It doesn't.
Theoretically, it's possible, right, that you could have a win-win trade. You could have a trade where Brandon winds up a Pittsburgh Steeler. The Steelers have a very good year, and he has a really nice career there. And the 49ers get multiple pieces to the puzzle, and they win a championship and go forward happily ever after. It's possible.
I go viral says, Damon, stop. This is a negotiation, and BA has been pushing for this. But then they gave him what he wanted, the trade to a new place for more money, and then he said no. So BA doesn't know what he wants. This is a negotiation. It feels like it.
Alex Faulkner is taking exception with the saying, get your dick out of your heart.
Yeah.
A Jizzle says, get your dick out of your heart.
I'm telling you, when he was get out of your emotions, be dispassionate, negotiate.
Sean Turner says, dick out of your heart. That's a new one.
Okay. I'm glad we're just giving something to the world that they can use. Here's the thing. Use that today at work. Try to use the sentence, get your dick out of your heart at whatever meeting you're at later on this afternoon. See how it goes.
Say it's the Damon Bruce theorem.
See where it takes you.
Here we go. We got this one from Law of Awe. Get your dick out of the fish tank.
That's it, dude. Get your dick out of the mashed potatoes. It's not that kind of party, man.
Okay. Oh my God.
Let me ask you a question here, Larry. I asked this to Crocky when he joined me on the channel yesterday.
Do you know him well enough to call him Crocky?
I do. Okay. I've been following him long enough on Twitter. I feel good about Crocky.
Does he even like Crocky?
He does. It's his chosen Twitter handle. So
okay.
So I asked him, and look, I'm going to ask you this, and I think everyone knows where we stand on Kyle Shanahan. We both really think he's a state-of-the-art, as good as it gets. The only flaw is zero occupation on the trophy shelf for any Lombardi trophy. There's a vacancy where there should be a Lombardi trophy. outside of that, he's really good at this. Really, really good at this. Here's my philosophical question for you, Larry. When does universal respect and admiration for the job and how well you do it get trumped by we just cannot keep doing the same thing over and over again if Kyle were to go to another Super Bowl and lose? If Kyle's Super Bowl appearances became fewer and further in between? I think we both agree that Kyle's seat isn't even room temperature, much less lukewarm, much less hot. Kyle is sitting on the same temperature seat Andy Reid is. There is no urgency to save his job with a Super Bowl this year.
Well, different.
But
Andy's a made man. Kyle will be a made man.
Right. But he doesn't have it. So how much longer do you think the 49ers would continue to return to a universally respected well when just, hey, we got to find a bucket of water somewhere else because this is not bringing up the full bucket of water that is a Lombardi trophy? So
yeah, I mean, nobody gets forever.
Yeah,
nobody gets forever.
When does the rubber meet the road on Shanahan running out of time to do what he does oh so well, but unfortunately not well enough to win a Super Bowl? What's the end date on a Super Bowl-less Shanahan era?
I would say 2030. Okay. If you're going to be, they don't right now. I mean, okay, so Andy Reid has won 3 in KC. He went 13 years in Philly and didn't win any. And then eventually, after year 13, they're like, you know what? We're going to show you the door. Shanahan is now in year 7. And I think he gets about the same. I think if they, and that would be very, 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 very frustrating. There'd be lots of frustrating stories of woe, even more than we have today. If we get 7 more years down the road, and this guy hasn't won the Super Bowl, odds are he will have gotten close, and we will have all kinds of, they should have done this, and remember the overtime against the Chiefs, and remember Emmanuel Sanders, and we're going to be talking about all these things eventually. But I would say 5 years for sure. I would say 5 years before the seat gets hot, and he probably has more like 6 or 7.
I think you're right. I think you're somewhere in the neighborhood of how it would play out. Because look,
we're the Bay Area. We're more reasonable here. So, like, yes, do we want? I mean, we're talking about the Niners. They have 6 titles. They have 5 titles, 5 Super Bowl titles. So they judge themselves by Super Bowl titles. So it's okay to judge yourself by Super Bowl titles.
It is, but look,
you have to understand that there's going to be a lot more lean than happy. There's going to be a lot more upset years.
The Niners got Lombardi trophies the way that Indiana has national championships. Yes, they're there. Technically, they've been won. Several generations between the last. It's been 30 years. From 40 years since Indiana's won a national championship. We want to pretend we're still a blue blood program, and thanks to the history, Indiana basketball is always going to be a big deal, even when we get lost in the woods for 30 years and don't win a national title. The 49ers get to enjoy that too. The 49ers are built to be an incredibly profitable, successful team just based on their history.
I don't know about that.
Look at it this way.
They were pretty bad all throughout my childhood.
Right, but the 49ers then redefined the yardstick of excellence as a franchise for the NFL throughout the 80s when the entire world was falling in love with the sport. It's why globally the 49ers are one of the most followed teams in the world of sports. And dude, they haven't. I mean, the Niners haven't won a Super Bowl since I was in college. Larry, it's officially been a long time since I was.
Well, how about this? If I say to you, who's more on the hot seat? Aiyuk's former coach, if he winds up being a former Niner, Shanahan, or Aiyuk's future coach, Mike Tomlin, who hasn't had a losing season in Pittsburgh, and how many times you can't even say his last name before people are like, he's never had a losing season. Nobody ever seems to mention that Oh, but yeah, by the way, they haven't won a fucking playoff game in 5 fucking years.
Right. But you don't get, people don't say things like that about you when you do got one Lombardi trophy somewhere in the bouquet of what you've done.
Okay.
Lombardi trophies buy an insane amount of time, especially when the other portions of your time are measured in he's never had a losing season.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Mike Tomlin, but here's the thing. Mike Tomlin is maybe the most underappreciated, greatest coach living today. He really is. Any sport. Like any
hasn't
sport.
Won a playoff game in 5 years.
Is he a bad coach, though?
I would not won a playoff game in 5 years. If Kyle Shanahan had not won Kyle Shanahan's a great coach. You know, if Kyle Shanahan had not won a playoff game in 5 years, what do you think?
Say to a Hall of Fame quarterback, things change.
Yeah, but I mean,
we're talking about and haven't been right since.
We're not talking about Super Bowl championships. We're talking about a playoff win of any kind. That can mean that could be you win in the wild card round, you get blown out in 5 years. If Shanahan hadn't, I mean, that's what happened to Mike Shanahan, right? He was winning, he was on top, he won a couple Super Bowls, and then they went I think something like 5 years, like 3 or 4 or 5 years without winning a playoff game. Boom, out, done, gone. I'm just saying we have really high standards for Kyle Shanahan here.
So
we really do. I mean, we got to remember who he replaced. He replaced, Chip Kelly, who replaced Jim Tomsula. Kyle Shanahan, when put up against the guys he replaced, you're like, whoa, love Kyle Shanahan. I love everything about this whole era of Niner football. They contend for championships. They haven't gotten it done yet, but man, I love Kyle Shanahan and this consistent, consistent Super Bowl contender status that the Niners seem to have under him, but he hasn't gotten it done. So
I think I think it's even to a head coach who's responsible for everything. I think it's really hard to pin you won a Super Bowl all on one guy or you lost a Super Bowl all on one guy. So I don't know if Brandon Aiyuk were to show up in Pittsburgh and then the Steelers go on to win a Super Bowl, if that would make Shanahan look worse than this, because it's one thing, again, it takes a collective effort and a whole lot of luck to win a Super Bowl. What would I think make Kyle look bad is if Brandon Aiyuk is traded to Team X, no matter who that Team X is, and then Brandon Aiyuk is a 115 catch, 1,800-yard perennial Pro Bowler for the next 5 years and regarded as one of the premier fantasy targets, fan favorites. He is the new Amon-Ra St. Brown. Everyone's talking about Brandon Aiyuk and how much better he looks in a new situation than he did with Kyle Shanahan, because that would be the first. Nobody leaves the 49ers and Shanahan and gets better. We haven't seen that. Maybe Raheem Mostert could have the one example of I left and I was just as good. Outside of him, I don't know who that player is, right? So,
well, not a lot of people are leaving, period.
Right.
So there's that. But I don't know. I mean, Kendrick Bourne's in New England. Is he better in New England than he was
here?
No,
not at all. No.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's Shanahan's a very good coach. I mean, I think everybody understands that. And he has some high profile flameouts, and he's had a hand in some of them. I think I'm in the business to speak honestly and fairly, and I know you are too. And I like Kyle Shanahan. I'm a believer that Kyle Shanahan will get it done. But I'm also have no problem holding his feet to the fire for the mistakes he has made and for what I think he's contributed to as far as the Niners, not winning this championship. So he's got to own it all, the good, the bad, the ugly. But ultimately, I'll stop well short of he needs to go and enjoy the fact that I think this guy is one of the great coaches in the sport. I think he is one of the great offensive minds in the history of the sport. I really do believe that. And I do think he's ahead of a lot of the league. I do think the league copies a lot of what he does.
Yeah. No,
but let's also be honest. He should have called a timeout in Philadelphia in the NFC Championship game when Afonga's going like this and Hurts is running down the field trying to get a play called. And you know what? You had multiple indications there, right there, Hurts sprinting down the field, trying to get the play called to get the next play called as fast as possible. Your DB waving incomplete. It's a major play early in the game. You have to challenge that. That was a Shanahan mistake. That was a mistake. And also not knowing the rules in overtime concretely and knowing exactly how you wanted to play things. I think that was also a bad moment for Kyle Shanahan. Of course, the Patriots 28-3 come from behind win in the Super Bowl when he was the OC in Atlanta. that partly is on Kyle too. So
it is, but
I think Kyle's a big boy. I think he understands.
Offensive or defensive coordinator catch as much responsibility for winning or losing a Super Bowl as Kyle gets held to his feet to the fire. And how come the Falcons defensive coordinator who blew the 28-3 lead isn't the bad guy? How is the offensive coordinator up 28-3 responsible for the collapse? I never really understood that, but ripping and bagging on Kyle Shanahan is like its own little cottage industry. People
it's the emperor has no clothes.
Right.
It's that whole thing. And it's like there's only two people that really move the needle if you're trying to bitch and complain. Brock Purdy, Kyle Shanahan.
That's right.
Everybody else, Jed, Bosa, Warner, Lynch, they're all, if you really want to complain as a football content creator, pick on the head coach, pick on the quarterback. By the way, Billy Bong drops this one in. He says Tomlin won a Super Bowl and has shitty teams. They had one of the best defenses in football last year. Obviously, no one is going to complain because he didn't win one playoff game in 5 years. He has shitty teams and still 500 or better.
He's had bad offense. He's had directionless quarterback play. He had an offensive coordinator in Matt Canada who was a disaster. And the minute he was replaced, that team started moving the football a lot better. They brought in Najee Harris to be the bell cow of all their offense. He's not. The Steelers are, they're always really good. I mean, that's the thing. Even when the Steelers are bad, they're still good enough to beat you. They're a
good organization
team.
It's a good organization.
Yeah.
But it's not a great football team. The Niners took them apart on week 1 in Pittsburgh last year. They were nowhere close to being on the same level.
Let's go ahead and jump into some chats. I know. Here's the thing: we're not wrapping up the show. We don't have to go anywhere. But I know that people, when they send these in, they like to see them read, and not everyone can stick around to the end of the show. So
here we go. Matt Wright says, first time catching a live stream in a while. Love the content. Frustrated by the Aiyuk situation. Need another Giants rant video. Congrats on getting back to the airwaves, Larry. Thank you on that.
How long will we remain on airwaves with another giant rant video? Maybe Larry's out of the giant rant video business all of a sudden.
I actually am not returning to the airwaves because I actually was on 95.7, but I'll be back in a larger capacity on the radio on the Sports Leader.
Now, if I were to come back, that would be a return to the airwaves because I've nowhere to be found.
Give it time. My Rhino says, I love discussing the Niners, but could you guys spend 5 minutes talking about Steph Curry's legendary game yesterday? Even LeBron and KD are talking about him. God, I was at Niners yesterday, Damon, and it was third quarter, and we're in the media room, and a bunch of us, Kawakami and a bunch of us are standing around watching this thing. Team USA was down to Jokic and Serbia like by 10 in the third quarter, and it was looking bad.
Yeah.
And I got in the car in Santa Clara and drove back to Walnut Creek, so I didn't see the rest of the game. But somehow, what happened? Steph put the whole thing on his back and carried the U.S. through. I didn't see it.
I think he had 30, 34, 36. What he ended up with, so here's the deal. I don't want to frame it in a way that negatively frames this because it was so spectacular. In terms of games of true consequence, that might be the last greatest look at Steph Curry we ever get. because that
because you don't think he's going to play playoff games.
No. That's the thing. Who knows what the Warriors become and what kind of stakes games they're playing at the end of this upcoming season or the remaining part. Steph Curry, with the weight of Team USA being embarrassed in the Olympics, picked up every future Hall of Famer on that team, including his own head coach, and say, "Follow me, boys. I know the way." And
USA was down 17. Wow.
Awesome.
17.
Curry was awesome. And then there was a fourth quarter run where Team USA made 10 buckets in a row. And that's where the game flipped on its head. And Joel
had a triple-double for LeBron.
Pretty well for a little bit there. It was fantastic. It was an awesome afternoon of high-level basketball from everybody's favorite player in the world, Steph Curry.
Would you agree with this? It says, this is what the game story says. But Curry will have this moment. He scored 36 points, making a numbing 9 of 14 threes, 2 free throws that sealed the victory. It was Curry at his absolute finest, unstoppable, and carrying the U.S. through some dark moments where it looked sure to lose.
Yep. That's what he did. That's what he did. Steph Curry ran into the burning house and not only saved the dog and the cat, he put the fire out. And your house is still standing, and he saved the entire day. It was Steph Curry at his very, very, very best, and it was awesome.
I'm glad for Steph, and he's on the global stage, and I saw him having, he's talking with was it Katie Ledecky the other day at an Olympic event, some kind of cocktail party. But Team USA takes on France tomorrow, rematch of the 2021 Olympic final. That should be good.
And let me tell you, like all home Olympic, cities, countries, they're just going to go nuts for France in there. It's going to be like they're going to be rooting for France like they're a 16 seed against a 1.
I'll tell you, that's the guy that I think is so underrated when I watch him. I've always enjoyed this guy's game, and it just seems like every time I watch him, he plays at a really high level. He's been really good against the Warriors. Bogdanovich is such an underrated player. He had 20 for Serbia, but obviously Jokic is their main guy. He had 17 and 11, but Bogdanovich is just such a smart player.
Look, and I don't want to sound racist here, but do all Serbians look alike? Is there just one barber in that country and they all go to the same guy? Because it's like it's the same dude over and over again with like the same amount of beard scruff, the same haircut, the same brow. I'm
picturing sports clips in Serbia.
Yeah. There's a mall with the sports clips, and the entire Serbian national basketball team's got a line right out the door. It's like they all go to the same place. They all look the same. They all play the same. They're all about the same size. Serbia was really impressive, and it just goes to show you so I think Steve Kerr nailed it when he said basically Serbia nearly Villanova-'d Georgetown. Now, for those of you who are old enough to know what that means, Villanova played the perfect half of basketball in a national championship game to beat Patrick Ewing and Georgetown. And Serbia was so freaking nearly perfect all game. They almost did that to Team USA, who from a talent standpoint, from a paycheck standpoint, should dwarf every team, even the other good international teams. But Curry was amazing. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's not his last greatest game in a game that really matters. I hope it's not. Because that would be a shame. That would mean the Warriors have kind of botched this. And oh, by the way, what really, really kind of sucks about this is the whole Lauri Markkanen thing is now off the table. Lauri Markkanen agrees to the Utah Jazz on a date where even if the Warriors wanted to make a midseason trade for him, decided that they were going to come off of Podziemski to get a Markkanen deal done, they can't now. Lauri Markkanen is untradeable in this upcoming NBA season. Now, I'll also say this. I like Lauri Markkanen. I never loved him. And if you're going to make the kind of trade that's going to bring in a big player, if you don't like the crop of interested, impactful NBA players that you might be able to add to your team, just wait 3 months. There will be 4 other guys who, for some reason, start, showing up as disgruntled, not happy, and now you can go ahead and get that guy. But Markkanen was out there, was available, and it looked like Brandon Pajemski was just a little too much. So anyways, I wish I could go through more starred chats, but I can't do that on my end. Larry is running the show on his end, so hopefully he reconnects here in just a moment. I can scroll, though. I can scroll a little bit. I can't bring him. Oh, hold on. I can look at these. So my Rhino, thank you very, very much. We had Matt. I can't bring them up, but Jason Tillman on the Star Chat says, I think the defense needs to be a juggernaut unit this year if they're going to get back to the Super Bowl. Larry needs to negotiate for Brandon Aiyuk. I tell you, maybe Larry's got it a little personal right now, but I don't know. Yeah. There you go. There he's back, everybody. Sort of. He's back.
I kicked a wire out and it took my audio and it ran it through the wrong computer. There you go. So I had to reboot. Wow. Sorry about that.
Luckily, I didn't panic. I just kept going, Larry. Just kept going.
I knew you wouldn't. Panic.
Let's see.
Let's get to back to the chats here because
that's what we were doing. So we were on the Jason Tillman chat. We said hello to My Rhino. We did Matt Wright. We're on My Rhino, and I was reading Jason Tillman's super chat.
Oh, here we go. Jason Tillman says, I think the defense needs to be a juggernaut unit this year if they're getting back to the Super Bowl. Larry needs to negotiate for BA. Yeah, there you go. Kevin Wood, member for 7 months. He says, Brandon will suit up.
Hold on, real quick, before you move on. If you had to be brought to the negotiating table,
right,
which side would you want to negotiate for? The Niners or Brandon Aiyuk?
Aiyuk. Okay. Aiyuk. Here's why. Here's my quick assessment of why Aiyuk needs to be paid $30 million. Because there are multiple mitigating factors that work against his production. You're trying to pay him less than other players that produce top-tier production. You're saying essentially that he's not in the top group. But in reality, between the fact that he is on the 49ers and they have this bevy of offensive weapons, that's drag number one on his production, is the fact that there's Debo and there's CMC and there's Kittle and there's only one football and they've got all these other weapons. So he's got one drag on his production right there. You could argue that just on that alone, his production is not what it potentially could be. And that's no fault of his own. That's number one. Drag number two on Aiyuk's production, no fault of his own. It's the 49ers run the ball more than any other team in pro football. The 49ers pass the ball less frequently than every other team in pro football. That is drag number two on his production. Drag number three on his production is the 49ers play the 28th fastest pace in the NFL. In other words, the 49ers play at a very, very, very slow pace. That's drag number three on Aiyuk's stats. So we don't want to pay him with receivers who have bigger numbers, but I just named for you 3 honest to goodness elements that are real, that are dragging his numbers down. Then you look at, well, you like to run the ball. Is he good in the run game? Yeah. He's one of the best run blocking wide receivers in the game. And the last one for me is he a diva? Is he a guy who's a me guy? Well, this summer you would think he is, but that's really not been his MO. So he's not a diva. He's not a me guy. He blocks in the run game. They play at the slowest pace. They got a bevy of weapons and they run the ball a ton. They run the ball more than any other team in pro football. For all of those reasons, this guy's numbers are a little bit suppressed.
Yes.
And for that, if I had to argue, I would argue that Aiyuk is better than his numbers and thus deserves to be paid a little bit higher than his numbers indicate in this particular situation.
So I think you make great cases and you would do well negotiating for Brandon Aiyuk. I would also like to negotiate for Brandon Aiyuk, and here's what I would do in my negotiation. I wouldn't bring up a single drag that are all very relevant points that you brought up that absolutely, suppress him statistically. What I would do is hand Kyle Shanahan a copy of his own schedule. I'd say, have you seen this fucking thing? Sign your boy.
Just mean how difficult it is.
Yeah, exactly. Have you seen this monster you've got coming up here, Kyle? Because I'll tell you, Larry, I've been going on some other channels, right? And I've been going on a few gambling channels. I've been going on a few, I've been sitting in anti-enthusiastic 49ers crowds. And let me tell you, based on that schedule and the rest disadvantage alone, making the argument that the 49ers are coming in under the 12 and a half, whatever they're favored at for the year,
11,
wherever you can find it.
Yeah.
11 and a half, maybe on BetUS. Go to BetUS, everybody. But look, seeing how things go wrong for the Niners is easy to see if you want to step back and look at it. You don't have Brandon Aiyuk, Debo gets hurt, and welcome to you're totally fucked now. That's how that goes.
Well, I mean, not only that, I mean, forget anybody getting hurt. Brandon Aiyuk has proven that he is Brock Purdy's number one weapon. Yep. Brock Purdy loves to throw the ball in the middle of the field. Brandon Aiyuk lives in the middle of the field. This is a quarterback that's made to play with this receiver. Now, you could also make an argument that he's made to play with Ricky Pearsall.
Maybe Ricky Pearsall's not made to play in this league, though. We'll find out.
Ricky Pearsall might not be able to stay healthy in this league. That's a big factor. As Damon just said, we're going to find out. Kevin Wood said Brandon will suit up for the Niners this year. He'll re-sign in the next
7 months. Thank you very much, Kevin.
He'll re-sign in the next 10 days. It's Jimmy from 2 years ago and Crabtree from 2009.
I hope you're right.
Blood Moon says Lynch and company have been up and down in the draft. Lynch's bread and butter has always been in-season trades. Lynch crowning jewel is CMC. Higgins would be Lynch's second crowning jewel. Yeah, I like the idea of if I could get, I mean, I'll say this. The more I look at the Steelers offer and what they have, if I could get from the Steelers, and I'm just no more, let's talk about dream trades. Let's just get realistic. If I could get the 2 young offensive linemen, not the rookies, but Dan Moore, the A&M tackle, James Daniels, the Iowa guard. They're both like in their mid-20s. They're both, I think, could help the 49ers offensive line. You get 2 young offensive linemen the Steelers really don't need because they just drafted better linemen to replace them this year. So those 2 offensive linemen and a pick or picks that could be flipped to a third team for a decent wide receiver. And if you could get, let's say, Dan Moore, Damon, and James Daniels, a couple of decent stopgap offensive linemen, because I think the Niners need to have that. And like one draft choice that you could flip for a Cortland Sutton, a T. Higgins. I think you're fine. And I'll say this: if I could talk to Shanahan, I would say to him, "You have Brock Purdy, you have CMC. I'm looking at this camp, Damon, every day. Cody Schrader is real. JP Mason, real. Some of these other backs that they have, Garendo, even Breida, and some of these guys, they look like they can run the ball. Why not load up on some offensive linemen? The Steelers have a couple good young ones there, and just become much more of a dominant run team with Brock Purdy throwing the play action off of it. And don't be so 50-50 and don't be so pass heavy and be more of a dominant run team. That might be the answer to all their prayers. It might be the answer to how you replace Aiyuk. It might be the answer to how you win the Super Bowl. It might be the answer to what does Kyle Shanahan need to do to finally climb to the top, is run the ball more.
It's funny that the advice to the most running the football football coach in the NFL is run it even more, right? I mean, that's kind of the world that they're living in. You talk about the draft
and run it behind some good offensive linemen.
What Blood Moon says about Lynch and company have been up and down in the draft. Just look at this one. I saw Josh Dubow put this out on a tweet yesterday. Just the 49ers 2022 draft class. So they didn't have a first-round pick because of the Trey Lance trade. Second-round pick was Drake Jackson. Guy's season-ending pup list right now. Third round.
May never play again.
Right. Third-round pick was Ty Davis-Price, who's off the roster. The other third-round pick
Bust.
was Danny Gray, who has one career catch. Their fourth-round pick.
Soft tissue injuries left and right.
Their fourth-round pick, Spencer Burford, is battling a rookie for a starting job right now and might not be the guy after all. Fifth round was Samuel Womack, who's played 70 total defensive snaps last year.
Yeah, I think he's got more coming, but yeah, he hasn't done it.
Sixth-round pick, Nick Zakel, 12 career offensive snaps. Don't know him. He lives, he's Purdy's roommate more than he's a football player. Number 6 is Kalia Davis, 54 defensive career snaps. Sixth round pick was Tyreek Castro Fields, who never even played for the 49ers. And their seventh round pick was Brock Purdy, who is probably really the only reason why Kyle and John Lynch still have a job, to be honest with you, because if this whole thing ended with Trey Lance didn't work out and there was no Brock Purdy, everyone's probably fired by now.
It was a great draft. It was a great draft.
Great draft.
They got Brock Purdy.
Blow it until you found Brock Purdy, and then everyone saved their job.
Oh, I know. I mean, and look at the first draft. The first draft was a clusterfuck, except for DJ Jones and George Kittle.
Right.
I mean, everything else. I mean, you took Solomon Thomas and Reuben Foster and Akello Witherspoon. That was the beginning of the regime.
Patrick Mahomes. You didn't even work.
You didn't
him
take
out.
Patrick Mahomes.
You didn't even talk to him, Kyle.
Yeah. They passed on him. They passed.
All right.
Matt Wright is thinking of getting a Damon Bruce sandwich for lunch. When is Larry going to get a sandwich from Ike's? I would have if I did have a sandwich at Ike's, it would be the Thanksgiving sandwich. It would be white meat turkey, a little turkey gravy, maybe some cranberries in there.
They already got one. You're like Larry David asking for the Ted Danson whitefish sandwich. It's already on the menu, Larry. You're gonna have to come up with something new.
What I need to do is I need to take that over and move whoever's named after that off that. And that
you're trying to whitefish the sandwich.
I want that to be the Larry Krueger. Bazzy Mian says, if the Niners traded Shanahan for Tomlin as head coach, which fan base would be happier, the Steelers or the Niners? That should put things in perspective. The fan base would be happier. It would be the fan base that won the Super Bowl.
Right.
I think Mike Tomlin's a good coach, supported by a great organization and a previous great general manager. I think Kyle Shanahan's a great head coach. I think they both
Kyle
need
came
a great
in
general
and
manager.
restored credibility to the 49ers that they had been leaking since the minute they stepped out of the Jim Harbaugh business. So, Shanahan did
Kevin Colbert's a great GM. I think John Lynch has done a nice job. Kevin Colbert's a great GM. And Omar Khan is also doing a really nice job. Ricky Williams says, for our team, any prediction for players to break out the first preseason game we aren't thinking about? Hopefully it's a D lineman for me. That's a good one. Why don't we throw that one, Damon? Give me Saturday. We're a couple days away from preseason game number 1. Give me a breakout player or two for the Niners.
I'd love to see Dominic Pooney go in there and just whoop some ass. I'd like to see Dominic Pooney use the first game he plays to let everyone know I start for the 49ers. So I'm going to be looking at him and obviously Malik Mustafa. And I think that, my eyes are certainly going to be on some wide receiver to do something. Because Debo, I'm guessing, isn't getting much of a run. Kittle is not a wide receiver. He's probably not playing very much. Brandon Aiyuk ain't going to be out there. So these are snaps for somebody to do something. I'd also like to see a second tight end really emerge. Eric Sauerbert. Let's go. Let's see it. Renardo Green. Let's see it.
It's going to, it's going to be Mason Pline.
Okay.
Mason Pline's agent contacted me the other day. He's like, I like what you're saying about Mason. It's like, yeah, this guy can absolutely play. He looks great. So
wait a minute. So Mason Pline's agent contacted you. How? Did he call you? Send you an email?
I'd have to check with Kev exactly what Kev said that he reached out somehow. I think it might have been through the IG and just said that he really likes what we've said about Mason Pline and that his family really appreciates the support and that he'd love to come on the show. And he just wanted to say, thanks for being a fan of Mason Pline. And nice. I said, I didn't say anything because I didn't talk to him, but I said to Kev, let's get him on. Mason Pline looks phenomenal. Phenomenal. I mean, the 49er tight end situation is really weird, right? So you have George Kittle. He's one of the great tight ends in the game. He looks great. Eric Saubert was signed off the street. He, is just a guy. I mean, literally just a guy. Kind of stiff, kind of slow, doesn't look good. Braden Willis is having a great camp. He's catching the ball better. He's kind of an undersized guy, and he's always going to be an undersized guy. Cam Latu looks great in the uniform, but just doesn't get anything done. Logan Thomas has been hurt. Jake Tungus, the Cal Bear, has had a real nice camp, but he's kind of a smaller guy. And then there's Pline, and Pline is 6'8" and about 250 pounds, and has great hand-eye coordination. And he looks really, really good.
Well, you look at him and you see him on the field, and the first thing you say is, how did that guy end up at Furman?
I know.
He looks like he should be a starting tight end at Oklahoma.
I know. He played hoops at Ferris State and then transferred to Furman. But to me, it's when you find out, when you start reading the details about Pline, you start reading the things, and then you start understanding what you're seeing. He's a tremendous athlete. So this guy is a really good athlete. He's got really good hand-eye coordination. He's got 10.5-inch hands. Then you looked at the fact that he was a mechanical engineering major. So, those guys, mechanical engineers, are generally very, very smart. To put that in perspective, Jack Coletto was a mechanical engineering major last year, and Kyle Juszczyk told me that he felt like Coletto was the smartest football player he'd ever met. And Kyle is pretty smart in his own right. He went to Harvard, so he'd probably know intellect. But this kid, Mason Pline, is, a lot of people saying, well, practice squad, and this is clearly their tight end too. I mean, in my mind, he looks so much better than the rest of this group of tight ends. I can't even express it. Not to mention that the rest of these guys can't go 3 practices without missing a practice, and this guy's been out there every single practice.
Will we ever see Logan Thomas, or is he already an odd man out?
He's got some physical problems. His body's a little beat up. He's the veteran though in a group where there is hardly any veterans, so he's going to get a full look. I think this is really between Willis and Latu and Pline to see who, which of those 3 young tight ends emerges in the preseason, or maybe multiple, maybe two of them do. But I think those are the 3 guys to watch for in the preseason: Willis, Latu, second-year guys, Pline, the rookie. But as far as guys to bust out tonight or Saturday night to look for, I'll give you a couple. One, look for Tanner Mordecai late, because Mordecai, I asked Brock Purdy about him the other day, and Brock Purdy smiled and said, "Man, Tanner can rip it." And I'm looking
have the best pure arm.
He looks better than Dobbs. He looks better than Allen. He just does. I mean, because you got to remember this. Those guys, you got to remember what you're watching. It's like watching a pickup game of basketball between 3 guys that are seniors in high school and a guy who's a freshman. And the guy who's a freshman's kicking ass. And then you're like, oh, whoa, look at this. Look at this freshman. Well, that's what you're looking at. Tanner Mordecai doesn't know the offense, barely knows it at all compared to Allen, who's been in the offense for over a year and is a veteran. Dobbs has been around the block, has been on many, many different offenses, and has had all kinds of NFL experience. And yet when you watch these guys in practice, Mordecai looks better than Allen and better than Dobbs. Allen doesn't have enough arm. Dobbs is atrocious. Dobbs is absolutely atrocious. Footwork, disastrous. Deep ball, flutters, accuracy, spotty. Mechanics, inconsistent. There's nothing about Josh Dobbs. I mean, do you think Sam Darnold was bad last year? Sam Darnold was Joe Montana compared to Josh Dobbs and Brandon Allen. The quarterback play behind Brock Purdy in this camp compared to last year is night and day. So, but watch for Tanner Mordecai. I guarantee you he's going to outplay Dobbs. He's going to outplay Brandon Allen. He's going to wind up being QB2 by the end of the preseason. The other guy you got to watch is Cody Schrader, the running back from Missouri. He's a tremendous little running back. I mean, he's 5'9", 215. He's good. He's really good. And he knows how to read his blocks. He can catch the ball to the backfield. There's a lot to like, and he's going to be a star in the second half of this game. I can almost guarantee you. And then the Niners have two big defensive tackles that are deep down behind, they're deep on the depth chart behind Kalia Davis and T.Y. McGill with the 4s. Evan Anderson from Florida Atlantic and Shaquille Brown, who's a free agent who was undrafted last year. Both those guys look like a ton in camp. So I'm eager to see what Evan Anderson and Shaquille Brown look like in real games that matter. The other guy that I'm really looking for, everybody's been talking up D. Winters. To me, Jalen Graham. And Jalen Graham and Tatum Bethune have looked really good in the last week. Graham's gotten involved. He's like a super soft-spoken, nice guy, Damon. He's gotten involved in 2 brawls this week. I mean, this guy is ready to play. Last year he had the red shirt year. He is ready to go. So I would say watch for Jalen Graham, Shaquille Brown, and Evan Anderson on defense. Watch for Cody Schrader, Tanner Mordecai, and those 3 tight ends on offense.
Who will be the 49ers Kevin Barlow preseason All-Star?
Right. Who's going to be Jared Hayne? I'll never forget when Kevin Lynch told me that he thought that Jared Hayne was the greatest return man he had ever seen. And I'm like, Devin Hester, Billy White Shoes Johnson, anybody? No.
Hall,
Jared Hayne, Jared.
Yeah, a little rapey that one, huh?
Well, yeah, Jared also had some problems off the field.
A little rapey.
Had some issues off the field.
Thank you, Ricky. We love a super chat that turns into its own segment. Thank you very much. Great question.
Then we got this one from Travi86. Live in Houston. How can I watch all the Niner games?
Oh, you're going to need your little direct ticket. You're going to need Sunday ticket.
Yeah, or you know what? NFL Plus is an awesome thing. I have the NFL Plus, and basically as soon as the game's over, I can watch a condensed version. I can watch like multiple different versions and broadcast partners.
Right. No one wants to watch it when it's over. I think you want to watch it live with everyone else. But yeah, if you want to watch it live with everyone else, it's going to cost you money. Look at it this way, Larry. I just put out a video on how much it's going to cost to be a 49er fan. Or how much it would cost to just sit on your couch and watch every game, how much it would cost to go and get a cheap ticket, how much it would cost to go to, 49ers Cowboys in the big baller seats. So all 3 different price points. And the answer is it's more expensive now than ever before to watch your team play every game. You need multiple streaming services.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you're in Houston and out of the Bay Area market. It's going to be even harder for you. So
it's worth it. It's worth it.
You're about $1,000 in. If you want to watch your team and every snap it's going to play this year, you're in about $1,000 to just to never leave your couch.
To get every possible streaming service, but you could get the NFL package. What's the NFL package cost? Do you know?
On YouTube, it's like $380-$400.
Okay. Matt Wright says, meant no respect to 95.7. Larry, I just meant in terms of regular appearances versus spot starts, so to speak. No problem. Hey, Matt, don't sweat it. He says, you should bring Damon on with you. It would be fire coverage. You guys know ball. We shall see.
So here's the deal. So should we tell everyone what the thing is? So there might be a shadow ban on Damon Bruce coming back to Bay Area radio. We're about to find out.
We're going to find out. Ben Affleck's double chin says, why not take a flyer on Hunter Renfrow?
By the way, that is the most suggestive looking pumpkin I've ever seen in my life. I'm uncomfortable with that pumpkin.
It's a very beautiful. It's a very beautiful pumpkin. It's a very nice pumpkin. Why not take a flyer on Hunter Renfrow minus the W there? It's Renfrow. I'm thinking of that. When I see Renfrow written like that, I think of that Houston Oiler guy. I forget who it was. Renfrow from the 70s. Anyway, Hunter Renfrow with the W. I don't think the Niners need him. I think the Niners have better receivers, to be honest, right now. I like what I've seen from the 49er receivers in camp, to be honest. I mean, there's no Brandon Aiyuk, but Debo looks great. JJ looks great. Pearsall, when he's out there, looks good. Cowing had one great day and then has had issues. But Ronnie Bell, Tay Martin, Trent Taylor, we talked to yesterday, Chris Conley. They did sign Robbie Chosen yesterday. He ran 4.34 coming out of college. They also have a guy named John Trey Kirkland, who's a former LSU player. They have Danny Gray, Frank Darby. To me, I like what I've seen out of Trent Taylor. Tay Martin's got really good ball skills. Chris Conley's looked really good. Ronnie Bell's looked really good. So it's, they've got wide receivers, not to mention Debo and JJ. So it's like, I don't think they absolutely have to get a wide receiver out of this trade with Pittsburgh. They could just go with no wide receiver and be fine. And we got this one, Mr. My Rhino, currently Stanford 896 and Cal 473, lead in total college medals. They dominate in most non-football sports and education. Why aren't they in the Big Ten instead of the ACC? Ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. I would have loved to have seen Cal and Stanford make its way to the Big Ten, and maybe they'll be the 19th and 20th teams if the league ever goes from 18 to 20 teams. But the ACC is ridiculous. The way that the ACC is taking credit for Katie Ledecky's medals is comical. Did you know, though, Larry, that I was heard that if Indiana University were its own country, we would have the 7th most medals in the Olympics.
Wow.
So there you go. Lot of diving, a lot of swimming at IU rears its head in the summer games.
I always love a good diver. I've always said that, Damon. I always like somebody who can dive. The key to diving is don't make a big splash. It's kind of the opposite of being a general manager, where you're always looking to make a big splash. If you're a diver, Damon, you're trying to make a small splash, or preferably no splash at all.
Have you seen some of these Chinese divers? It's like they go ahead, they hit the water. It's like flipping a coin into the pool. There's no splash at all. There's nothing. There's no white water. There's no ripple of anything. They go in right like a needle, and it's incredible. And they're probably all on steroids, and they've probably been forced to master their craft from the age of 3 on in a military-like suppressive society. But let me tell you, that's a 9.5 on that dive. That was a triple gainer. It was very nice.
Ralph, you're a Renaissance man, and if there's one thing that you and I were meant for, it's for you and I to get together on some synchronized diving. What do you think?